going. But yeah, dude, he jumped a garbage can. I was like, dude, look at that shit. Hella big.
Sounds like Jacob.
Yeah. Yeah. It's on brand.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Big Bike BMX. I'm super stoked today. Craig decided to come back. He still likes me, so that's cool. I'm excited that he's here today. And I'm blessed right now. My favorite podcast in the whole world is Urban Misfits Podcast. It's for me, I look at it like when I was growing up, and Craig, maybe you'll attest to this too. Like I had to wait a whole month to find out what was going on in the BMX world. Because it was the magazines were the only place to go to find information. And now in 2020, it like 2 times a week I get an update on the up and coming folks on Wheelie Wednesdays, and I get like product updates and everything on your regular podcast, on the longer uploads. So I get to find out who's who in this world, what they're doing, what's cool, some bike repair stuff. Tucker, man, I'm Slim Boy 916 is Tucker. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Man, thanks for having me, you guys.
This is insane. Yeah. Like, have you ever been on this side like this? Have you been the interviewee yet?
Not yet. Very close. Jason, actually, the manager, the Goon team manager for Throne.
Yeah.
He just started his own podcast like not too long ago. And he's been talking to me about, he's been really hyped on my podcast since I started it because he mentioned something in our group chat one day and about, I think we should start a podcast. And I had just started mine. So I was like, boom, and just kind of like nonchalantly just left the link in there, you know?
Right.
And they were like, what, dude? And he's been up about it ever since. But we were supposed to sit down and do a podcast, but then the Rona happened. Sure. So
yeah, no kidding.
It kind of changed everything, didn't it?
Yeah, man, we're in some weird times for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. The gentleman's handshake, bro, is dead.
No, not existent anymore.
Bro.
Yeah, I'm one of these. Like someone walks up and sees me, I'm just like, hey, hello, stay over there. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a weird time in our chapter in history. But you know, I think we're starting to see people like respect the distancing and what that actually means, and people are actually staying home. So hopefully we can get a handle on this soon, and we can all get back out to riding because I'm dying to ride with y'all. There's Phoenix isn't as big a scene as what you have there in NorCal, and I'm from NorCal, so I'm dying to get out. I want to actually see Craig and get out and meet him in person and see you guys up there in Sacramento. I used to ride out there, dude. I loved it. I used to ride over at Sac State and over by Old Sac, and I think it's called Discovery Park. Maybe that's right. What's the park that's right there by Old Sacramento, like to the right with the?
Is that Land Park?
So there's a few. There's Southside Park. Discovery Park is over there, and then Land Park's kind of over farther away.
Nice.
Yeah.
I used to love riding out there, man. It was crazy fun. But I grew up in Stockton. Like Stockton, Lodi, Galt is kind of where I rode most of the time. So just seeing like the old places is fun. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, man, I want to find out. Like, I don't know your history of bikes. I've heard little bits and pieces. Maybe there's some motocross or something in there. It's like you pick up little things, listen to your podcast, but maybe, for those of us that are, new to your podcast and new to following you, all I know is you do crazy, like pretzel wheelie tricks, which is dude, the dad in me, bro. When I see you, like you recently did a wheelie, right? And so first of all, there's the leg over when you hit your brake pad, where you hit your lever and fell. And then I thought like, oh, he's doing another leg over. And so you're doing a wheelie, you see the leg go over, and then nonchalantly, if you pay attention to the clip, his leg goes through the top tube, and like you're doing this like crisscross thing, and it gives me heart palpitations as an old man because I'm like, bro, don't fall. How did you get started in riding? Tell me about that.
Man, so Where did it start? Well, so to bring it like all the way back to the start, I learned how to ride a bicycle like without training wheels when I was 2 years old or 2 or 3. I was like really young. And I guess I had been on a bike or something with training wheels, and my sister is older than me. And my dad it was like time for her to take her training wheels off. And like, I guess my dad has told me I just threw a tantrum, dude, until mine came off. And I went and rode my bike without training wheels from there on out. It was crazy, I guess. But, so I've always had like the natural ability and like the love for bikes, even since I was young, which then kind of evolved into dirt track racing. I got into racing BMX, and my parents were divorced, so my mom got remarried, and it was kind of a weird situation. I was like friends with the kids, and then our parents met, and then our parents got married. So it was like my best friend and his older brother, which I was cool with too, but he was like 3 or 4 years older than us. And they rode quads and raced BMX bikes too. And I had like a Pee Wee 80. It was like my first dirt bike. And dude, I freaking thrashed the shit out of that thing.
Dirt bikes is so much fun.
Dude, yeah. And so like my parents were split, so I lived part of the time with my mom at that time was in Discovery Bay actually, and my dad lived up in the mountains. And so I had the dirt bike life up at my dad's, and then the racing BMX at my mom's when I was down there. Like when I was, I don't know, probably like 7 through 11 maybe. Something like that. And once like the freestyle motocross thing became like real apparent, and like the metal militia was like a thing all of a sudden, dude, me and my brothers just got super heavy into the dirt bikes, and like we rode bikes, but their mom's house was in Tracy, and they had like tractors and shit on their big ass property. So they had like, at first it was a BMX dirt track and freestyle dirt jumps and stuff on the property, and then once we got into the dirt bikes, it turned into a freestyle motocross track, the whole property. So
that would be legit, dude.
Yeah, my mom somewhere, if I can get her to find them, I'll post them up. But there's a picture of me on a CR80 dirt bike when I was like probably like 12 or 13 maybe. I hit, and this was before like super ramps, like super kickers, the big metal ramps were a thing. We had a wooden one built up to what used to be, it was a dirt tabletop for our BMX bikes, which then just became the landing for this big wooded kicker. Yeah. And it was next to like I think it was a plum tree. But she has a picture of me on that thing, probably 25 feet in the air at least, doing like a spread eagle no footer.
Yeah.
So I've always been kind of on the extreme side of shit with the two wheels, and I had like an absence for, I don't know, 12, 15 years or something, 15 probably. Started getting into a lot of trouble and made a shitload of bad decisions, developed a really bad drug addiction, and kind of experienced life on a whole different level for a while. And then like back in 2010, I ended up getting my shit together, got clean and sober, and like really did like the program, like did the whole, like I had a drug problem, but I like went through like the AA stuff, you know, and like at first I really wasn't doing it for the right reason. And then something happened like along the way, like 3 months in, where I was just like, you know what, maybe it's just time for a change, you know? And so I was like, it was like the perfect scenario. I moved to Sacramento. I didn't fucking know anybody here. So there was like no outside judgment on like just starting a new life, you know, and
right,
trying something new. So I did that, and it served me really well in life, because I've pretty much been I was technically homeless from the time I was like 15 till I was about 20. Well, actually, till I was about 22, actually. Been through programs, been to jail. Like, it's not the life to live. I can tell you that for sure.
Right.
But yeah, man, turned it around, and it's been a really long journey. But I can tell you this: I never would have gotten where I am, like in life and career, and just personally, without making that huge life decision, and just following through with it and learning all those disciplines. But it kind of really helps me balance out riding bikes now because I don't know, I was like in a shitty relationship, or marriage actually. And I don't know, I guess I was depressed or something. That's why I was like on YouTube looking for the bike stuff. I had a mountain bike. I'm like, I don't know what drew me to it, but I saw it, and as soon as I went to my first ride, man, it was like hooked. I mean, immediately, because it was the only thing that could like calm my head down. I was like super present, just all the outside bullshit in life that was happening and was just irrelevant,
Yeah. That's amazing.
Let me add, hey, Tucker. So I know that you've had some experience in the motorcycle world too, doing stunts, wheelies, and being a part of that whole scene. Did that come before that transition into the big bikes that you're about to get into, or when? Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the motorcycle thing? Because I think that kind of sets the stage for your big bike BMX riding.
Yeah. So, I've pretty much had a motorcycle like somewhere in my life, pretty much my whole life. And the Harleys came before the big bikes. And I think I got, in 2010, after I kind of got my shit together a little bit better and I got on my feet, I ended up buying a Harley. God, when was that? 2014, probably 2013, I think. And just got back into having a bike again, and then I found the Harley wheelie stuff online, and I was like, what is this? Because I've been able to wheelie like anything, like 2, 4 wheels, 3 wheels, like I could wheelie anything growing up, like always. So when I saw these dudes online that were doing like 12 o'clock wheelies on a Harley, bro, I'm like,
those guys are nuts.
I'm gonna fucking do that. Straight up, bro, I'm gonna do that. Like, and holy shit, that was the hardest thing to learn how to wheelie ever. I mean, without question, is the most tricky thing to wheelie, because by that time I'd actually gotten a Dyna, and it was the first bike I ever bought, brand new off the lot. And I was stunting that thing, fucking idiot.
Did you weave it off the lot or what?
Not off the lot, but yeah, very shortly thereafter.
As I was checking out, you have a Dyna page, right? Like an Instagram page. It's got a pretty good amount of followers, but the videos on that page you're just blown away. I'm blown away, with what those guys do and what you did on your bike. It's like, it's nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I started that Dyna Life page like right after I bought that Dyna, and I don't know. I met a whole bunch of people in the motorcycle world, just like I met a bunch of people in the bicycle world. And I met a ton through that page too, but I mean just like locally and shit like that. And as soon as I found out about the wheelie thing, though, I found out that there was guys locally here in Sac doing wheelies, and I was just like recognizing bikes when I would see them on the videos. I was like, oh shit, I've seen that before, and end up running into them. And the Dyna Life page is always like a pretty good icebreaker, like when talking to people, because they're like, oh, you're the Dyna Life dude, okay, and whatever, but that was like I don't really manage or do anything with that page anymore. I still have access, but I sponsored my homie Dustin Thrasher. Go follow him. It's dthrasher79 on Instagram. But he's an older dude and he rips wheelies, bro. He's sick, and he has repped that Dyna Life page. I sponsored him, did shirts and all kinds of stuff with him, and he's just been down for the cause since the gate. So, and he's local here in Sac. So I kind of closed that chapter of my life with the motorcycles and shit. So I was just like, yo, you can just have this, bro. Like, you know what I mean? There's like 30,000 followers. Like, go do something with it. You know, if I get a bike again, I'll come back around. So
That's kind of awesome, dude. How did you transition to, like, with the big bikes, talking about like sponsorship? I mean, with Throne, how did you get into from motorcycle to where you're at now?
on the big bikes?
Yeah, on the big bike, like the 29ers.
Oh man. Really, it took me to just put in the work on the pedal bikes. Like as soon as, like I said, I ran into Matt Rickard on the first ride out that I ever actually got downtown to make it out to. I knew a few of them had passed and I'd missed a few, but really I had let's see. I had the Marin, and through like the divorce stuff, my Harley actually got stolen. So I'd been without my Harley for a little bit. And then I traded a GoPro Karma drone for SE Big Ripper, a baby blue one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's legit. Yeah, that's legit. That's a come up.
So I got that Big Ripper and tried to learn how to wheelie it, and it was just like not happening at first. I don't know. Like I said, I've always been able to wheelie stuff, but never like I do now. I've been able to do motorcycles and quads like at 12 o'clock, just that balance point, but never a bicycle. Dirt bikes, my CR80, like for the size that I was when I had it, the power band on the thing was just so vicious that it was kind of hard for me to keep it 12 like that. But man, like I said, just working through really stressful time in my life with the divorce and like moving and still having to manage my businesses. I have employees that are looking up to me and like, you know what I mean? I'm like trying to keep my head on straight and go to work and be productive and stuff. And like, I just, to be really honest with you, I couldn't even do it. Like I couldn't even do any of that. Like at that time, I couldn't go to work. I couldn't have my employees like ask me for anything because it was just like, I couldn't, you know what I mean? Just too much was going on in my head and physically, like with moving and all that stuff, it's just a lot. So once I got into the bikes, I realized that calmed everything else down. As long as I got some miles in on my bike, like even like a half hour, an hour of riding, it was like, boom, I was like ready to like show up at work and help the crew and make sure everything was cool, you know? And so I recognized that because like I said, through my time, like going through the programs and stuff, I spent probably more than 3/4 of a decade looking really introspectively and looking at myself and how I operate and things like that and like when to recognize. So I just noticed that and put in hella miles, like probably the first, like once I broke through that, you know, when you first start riding bikes again and it's just like you're gassed hella quick.
Yeah.
Like once I kind of built up the stamina a little bit to where I could manage a ride out without like completely dying, I was probably riding on average like 80 to 100 miles a week.
Oh, wow.
And realistically, it was normally only between like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it was like big durations on 3 days a week.
Well, you know what the trip was like before the this tonight going on. I was like, I never really looked at your page back from the beginning, so I definitely went in and insta stalked you from your from your first post and stuff on your Slim Boy 916. And I think you were on that Ripper you were talking about, and I was like, wow, look, it was kind of crazy to see where you started, because you were doing it, but you were still getting your technique down and your skills. And to know you now from where you started back on that Ripper, even I think you went from the Ripper. Matter of fact, when I first saw you, it was at the same ride I met Matt in Santa Cruz, you were on a red line, and
yeah,
it was like a teal red line, and then the progression through all of that. So it was really neat to see how you came from, like you said, back on from the Ripper, and then and through your page, it's just you could just see the amount of work you were putting into it, and you just talked about how much. So that was pretty dope, man, because it lets anybody know that if you work on it, and like Matt was saying, like Isaac and I have talked before, you put in the time and you put in the grind, there will be results, and it's all a matter of what you put into it. It's what you're going to probably get out of it, right?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot to mention that part. The through that like 80 to 100 miles a week, I probably went. I think me and Matt counted. I think I've had like 8 bikes since I've known him. So I went through the Big Ripper, the baby blue one. Then I got the Maniac Flyer actually, and then like 2 weeks later, I bought the Red Line, and pretty much never rode the Maniac ever again. And then from the Red Line, what did I get after that?
You got that?
the red Big Ripper.
Yeah.
I traded Jack for his red one, and then I mobbed that thing for a while, and then I ended up getting the black and gold goon that's sitting over here. So it's weird transitioning through bikes because they all ride different, and like if you're like, it's the same thing with motorcycle like stunt riders and stuff. Like no 2 bikes are the same. As much as you try and set them up the same, there's little quirks and things that are different.
So were you just changing them around kind of there was just something that wasn't to your liking, or were you just trying to see what each bike felt like what you were changing from brand to brand, model to model? What drove that?
Just seeing what was out there, you know what I mean? Like so what I saw and so the type of person I am is I kind of like look and I sit back and observe, and with like riding with everybody, I notice that everybody has an SE bike, bro. And like, I never want to be like everybody else. Like I want to do me. And that's kind of how I've always operated. So I take a look at that and I'm like, well, is there something about SE bikes, or is this just like some fad thing? So like I investigated, you know what I mean? And I found in my investigation that there's other brands out there.
Right.
So I took a look at those and did some investigating on those, and I never had a 27.5 before. So I was like, that looks fun, and
yeah, because that Maniac's a whole different ball game from your Ripper or your Red Line. You got the 27.5 inch Maniac with the 3.1 tires, I think, and disc brakes. So it's a whole different setup.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I'm at that point too now, because I'm like, I mean, I got for Christmas, I got my Big Ripper, and it's it's just April, so I mean I'm only like 3 months into coming back to BMX, and dude, every single time I see a new bike, I'm like, I want it, I want it, right? Like SE dropped the beast mode with the money wrap, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna that looks like it's different enough. I can I can get that. And then today, like I see they got the PK Ripper come out, and I'm like, well, that already has hydraulic brakes on it. I want that. I'm like an idiot, dude. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with the bike I ride. I love the bike I ride. That's the funniest part about it. I love it. There's no reason I should even be looking at new bikes. But I can't tell you how many times, I can tell you how many times I've been to Throne's website. I watched if you go, you can look at the Goon page, and it'll be like 4 left. And then the next day, 2 left. And I'm like, I'm literally just like, I don't need a new bike, but man, do I want one? Yes, absolutely, dude. I have a problem. I really do.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It's really bad when you have people like Damon that you always ride with, because it's a terrible influence when you go see that. You're like, well, you start looking at your garage and you're like, you fit more bikes in here for sure. I could, yeah.
Warehouse, dude.
Why wouldn't I need 10 goons? Right. Why wouldn't I need those?
Yeah, with all it's different is the tires, but I need them.
Yeah.
I get it, dude. I totally get it.
Yeah, I will say this, since getting my newest goon, this one behind me, that has seriously been my favorite bike, and I swear to you, I'm not just saying that. But it really has been. Like, it's so smooth. Like, I don't know what. Like I said, every bike is different from that. And my black and gold Goon, other than I know the stem's a little longer, which makes it different, but other than that, it's still just such a smoother ride for some odd reason. I don't know. I've been really digging it though.
So, like, can you like tell me about like as someone that's never ridden one, and I follow, pretty much everybody on Broke Boys, and there's a ton of Thrones out there. What? And I watched the video on. You posted a video with the talking about like the chain tensioners and getting that right. What do you find different about Throne versus SE? As far as like the bikes go, not just and not just like I'm talking like geometry and the actual feel of the bikes,
Yeah, I mean the main things is the Goon comes, I mean, for one, the Goon comes with sealed hubs, bottom bracket, and headset. So it's sealed, all three complete sealed, which is nice. The geometry is definitely different. The Goon is more based off of like a fixed gear freestyle frame, which what that does differently, like in comparison to like a Big Ripper, is the rear end on the Goon is quite a bit shorter. I don't know the exact amount, but it for sure is. And so the front of the frame is a little bit longer, which for me is more comfortable because I got long arms. So like it puts my reach in a much more comfortable position, and also with having the short rear, it makes for popping up the wheel and doing wheelies a lot easier because you're already farther back. But what I've found too is, I don't know, for me, I would think you would want it a little longer in the back to like have like smoother swerve like capabilities, but it seems even though it's real short like that, it's still good for swerves too, because my swerve game definitely improved from my Big Ripper to my Goon, for sure.
So when you transitioned over to the Goon, I mean, so that was one of the biggest things, or the Throne. Was there a learning curve with that too? Did it take much time to get used to the new bike or the new geometry that you were talking about?
A little bit. Oh, the other thing that's different too, I'll circle back to that, is the tubing on here is like an octagon tubing. So it's not round or flowable like the SE. So it's a little different too. But the learning curve, yes. To be straight up, when I went from my Big Ripper to the Goon, I can't remember. Oh, yeah. It was on the 39 tooth. So it was on the stock ring, which I'd never ridden anything that tall before. And I really didn't like that. But that's like my preference wheelie thing. However, you do want it a lot smaller for the wheelies. The newer bikes are going to come with smaller front sprockets. They're going to have the BMX cranks and stuff too on them. So the whole basically, and that's like the one thing that most people have an issue with is the crank and sprocket setup that comes on them. But I've rode the crap out of mine, dude, and like totally abused my bike to the best of my ability. And I'm talking about my black and gold one, and that one I got used also from a kid who I'm almost 100% certain must have gotten hit by a car or swerved and hit a car or something before it got to me. Because
you
rode all sorts of funky in the back.
You rode the black and gold one pretty hard, right? I mean, you pounded that thing, right?
Oh yeah. It's ready for a rebuild right now. Actually, I haven't been riding it at all. The Broke Boys contest really hammered that bike.
tell us about what you did for the Broke Boys contest video edit. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so shout out Broke Boys.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hey, we're huge fans, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard not to talk about Broke Boys because you get Craig and I on a call, dude. We just talk like before we even start recording. We're talking about like, hey, did you see who posted what today? We're huge fans, dude. So
Hell yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Hell yeah. But yeah, so the Broke Boys put on a contest, and it was a cash prize contest. I think first place was $400, second was 200, and third was 100. And I went out and filmed for 2 days with one of the youngsters here in Sacramento. His Instagram is Carter Get Blocks, I think. I'll share whatever. I'll look at it and share with you. But
we'll put it in the description.
yeah. But anyways, we went out and filmed for 2 days straight, like from noon till dark, pretty much. And we went all over the place, downtown Sacramento, riding, looking. I had 2 spots in particular I wanted to hit. And the rest of the shots kind of, we just rode around and saw, I found, it was just like, we were pretty much, he was following me around looking for like the most gnarly stuff I could find because like I had to beat Jacob.
Yeah, you needed something really gnarly.
You know, and I made probably some good decisions not hitting some of the stuff that I found, but man, if it comes to it, I got some cool shit in the bag for
Dude,
future.
You hit a 10 stair, didn't you, with a flat or a landing on it in the middle of was it a 10?
Oh yeah. So
was that in the Goon edit or was that
no, that wasn't in that edit, but I hit I think it's an 8 stair at the Cathedral in downtown Sacramento, which I hit that like 10 times to get that shot.
It was an 8 stair, but it had a landing as well, right? Didn't it break up the stairway where you had to actually launch a lot further? And man, when you landed too, I mean, you were sitting on your back seat, bro. That was a gnarly stair jump.
Yeah, and it's so that video was actually I did like a promotional video for the bars, for the Broke Boys bars, and I've ridden by that. I mean, every one of us has. We've ridden by that stair set a million times, dude. And like a long time ago, I jumped off the top set. So what it is it's a 6 stair to a 6 foot flat to a 7 stair to an incline, and I've jumped from the top and landed on the second set of stairs like as a landing before and never did that again. So, I mean, I only did that once and it was a while back. So I don't know what made me think to hit that stair set, but me and Carter rolled up on it one day we were out. And then like I had the thought to do the promotional video because I was trying to like do something big to kind of solidify the part that I wanted and with Broke Boys. So I planned on getting a tattoo for the other contest, but I didn't do it then. So anyways, the week later we come back, man, I rolled up on that stair set. Oh my God, bro. I was like, oh, this is way bigger than I remember. Oh shit. Man, and it was crazy too. You guys have probably ridden with him, and man, I'm sorry I forget your name, bro. He's the Australian dude. His Instagram is cunt oi, but it's backwards. Dude's awesome though. But he hit me up and was like, dude, I'm gonna be in Sacramento tomorrow. What you doing, mate? You know, and I was like, oh, I'm just chilling. He was like, you trying to ride? And so I was like, yeah, bro, meet me downtown at this time because I had only enough time really to hit that and go ride a little bit, and then I had to leave. So he was like, all right, cool. So I meet him. I just park, put money in the meter with my car, pull the bike out of the back. He's standing there. We ride to and I'm parked like right by the tunnel, which is right where that stair set is. We roll up to it, and he's like, you're going to hit this? And I'm like, yeah, bro. Like trying to pull it off because I just said that in my head too. You know, he just said it out loud. I'm like, yeah, bro. Yeah. So I like roll up to the top and I look at it and I'm like, fuck, dude, I got to do it. We're here. So I speed checked it once and then I rolled up on it and just kind of like rolled down both the sets of stairs. And then my hands started getting sweaty, so I was like, fuck it, wiped them off. I was like, this is it, we got to go. Boom, and just hit it, and it was just one and done.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, you got to go check it out. It's insane. It's dope.
Yeah, it was tight. It was definitely a epic day for me for sure. And like you said, I landed real seat back. Oh, dude, I got a bruise like this big on my inner thigh from that.
Oh,
Man.
It came past my seat super hard, and I sunk down so low, my leg actually hit my tire.
Damn, dude, that's one of those bruises you probably didn't see till the next day, huh?
5 days later.
Holy shit.
And it just continually, day by day, got bigger and bigger and bigger until finally it stopped. It got super black, and then it got like yellow and green, and then it just slowly went away. That one was gnarly.
Oh man.
that's crazy, dude. Oh my God. I mean, I remember seeing the clip and I remember thinking like, that's insane. But I mean, I didn't know like it comes at a cost, friends. It comes at a cost.
Oh,
Like it's
yeah.
not just all fun and games.
Yeah, man. Blood, sweat, and tears. And I got to hold it down for the broke boys in NorCal, bro. Got Jacob up here with me.
Right. What's that like? I mean, tell us like in your words, like riding with in a team or on a team where Jacob Santos is, kind of the guy that's fronting that whole scene. How does that level you up? How does that push you to want to go bigger and do the things like to kind of stay with that, How's it?
I really, knowing Jacob, I feel like it's expected of me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't like to be one to disappoint. So,
Yeah, definitely.
but I have a lot of fun jumping stuff. I have some pretty funny stories actually of some gnarly crashes jumping bikes before. I don't know how old I was. I was pretty young. I was at my dad's house and I had this quarter pipe, and it was too steep, and it was a masonite ramp. But I had like dug out the back of the side of this hill, so it was like this real steep quarter pipe, and then like a gap, like maybe 6 feet, and then like this dirt flat. So, and it was kind of a step up a little bit, man. And my house was behind it, so it was like up into my driveway, kind of. And my dad comes out right as I'm like pedaling my ass off down the street, and I'm on a K2 mountain bike, full suspension, mind you. And I'm like just smashing coming down the street. My dad comes out on the porch, which is like 15 feet off the ground. So he's got a bird's eye view of what's about to happen. And I hit it, and my friend is standing right in the street next to the ramp. And I just went, boom. I don't know, must have gotten 10 feet of air off that thing, and then just went straight down. And it was, I can't believe I didn't break my wrists. Because I mean they like folded all the way back, and I just face first into the ground, scorpion, the whole nine, like rolled over, got up, and like was feeling my wrists because I saw them when I crashed. You know what I mean? It looked crazy.
Hey,
I was like, oh my God. My dad was like,
that K2 was a steel framed bike that weighed 40 plus pounds.
oh,
That
dude.
bike's hey man, I had one of those.
Bro.
He came back down like a friggin' sack of potatoes, yeah.
Oh, my dad was like, you okay? I was like, I think so. He was like, God, just put his hand on his face, turned around, and just went back in the house. So,
Insane.
yeah, I'm not afraid of the crashes. I know that sometimes they happen. So,
Well, you kind of came from a dirt racing background where you're hitting sections and triples and jumps, and so that whole thing probably was with you when you were doing your stunts and stuff, right? Metal Militia, Brian Deegan, Nitro Circus, whatever you watch, you were probably a crusty demons of dirt guy if you ever seen those videos.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. So that Syndit mentality was already imprinted into your brain as far as like,
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about your podcast. Being the person that runs that podcast, you run into some characters all the time. You have some of the craziest guests, some of the coolest content. Can you share with us, like people like me who are new? I haven't seen every single episode, but like, who have been your like some of your favorite moments? Maybe some of your, I wouldn't say favorite guests, because I mean we'll be here all day, right? Everyone has their own unique thing, but what's some of the most memorable moments that you've had on the podcast? Feel free to start with Craig.
I don't have one from Craig. Go ahead with anyone. Just
Most memorable moments. Definitely one that I got to throw out there for sure was the 7 shit episode, because that was like the first time I had ever recorded with I mean, it was like recorded in front of a live studio audience. If you want to get real technical, there was like 20 people inside that garage that we recorded in. So that was a little different and memorable, and because it was cool to hear the reaction. You know what I mean? That I kind of assume that is going to happen when people view the video. You know, so to see that was fun, and to meet all the new people there, it just really opened up for the rest of that trip, because after we did the podcast, it's just like, you know, part of the family. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but it was pretty wild in there with all them, and they were partying in the back. So I mean, they were drinking, smoking, and getting their fun on, you know?
yeah.
Not to mention it was in Vegas, so enough said.
Those guys are crazy. I've seen like surfing down like crazy hills, and just those guys are nuts, man. I have so much respect for that whole crew.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's some hitters out there for riders, man. And it's cool. They're on their own little vibe too. They like it's not that they don't care about anybody else, but they don't really need anybody else's like hype or anything, you know what I mean? They're just kind of doing their own thing. They love to ride. They ride as a family, and it's pretty tight knit as far as most of those riders go. Their crew is huge, but really it's like probably 7 of them that really ride like together every day, I think. So, but that was definitely one of the more memorable moments, just because of like the audience aspect. Probably the most, this one has to probably be at the top of the list actually, is the first podcast that we ever recorded with me and Matt Rickard. And I got all my equipment, new cameras, and set them up. Did a test run. Everything was good. Press record. We sat down. We podcast for an hour, 15 minutes. It went real good. And I got up after we were done to go turn the cameras or stop recording, and they were dead.
Oh.
Black screens. Yeah, I was like, what happened? Like, and so they were still on, like the on switch was on. So I was like, so I turned it off because it wouldn't do anything. So I turned it off and had to turn it back on, and it came back on. And I'm like, oh shit, it died. And I looked, and the other one was dead too, because I was running 2 cameras, and I checked to see it, and it only recorded like 12 minutes.
Dude,
So when I noticed that, I looked up, and mind you, this whole time I hadn't said a word yet. Rickard was still sitting in the chair, and I was like, "Hey, Rickard, you have any other plans tonight?"
dude,
He said, "No,
What's
why?"
What's up with Rickard and doing double takes and interviews, right?
I'm telling you, dude. So when we did Matt, we had he did it from his phone, and we had it. His phone was in portrait mode instead of landscape. So I get done, and we look at it, and I was like, "Oh, geez, dude!" And it's my first interview. That like Craig and I, like, it was easy because it was just like computer to computer. We didn't have like a cell phone in it.
Right.
Poor guy, man. He's just like, I go through and I edit it. I'm like, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not that bad. And he looks at it, he's like, yeah, we'll just record it again. And I was like, man. So
He's like, "Don't worry, I've done this before."
yeah, and most patient guy I've ever, like, he was so cool about it, man. It was a good time. So I can relate, dude. I had a great time interviewing him too. And I can tell you the anxiety right now, hoping that everything works out with this. I'm right there with you, brother. Like I know how it goes.
Just real quick, I think the most memorable part of Urban Misfits for me, and Isaac, I'm sure you have a most memorable, was just seeing that first episode come on and go and being able to sit down and watch two guys talking about bikes and the bike life and BMX and just having a conversation was like, there had been, in my opinion, nothing that I've seen before that was talking about this stuff. And that was the most memorable for me. I knew Matt a little bit, or who he was, but didn't know him. I didn't really know Tucker, but just to see this come to the forefront and be put out there for everybody who's interested in it, that was so memorable. Like, I just watched something happen for the first time. And I think this is going to be a really big part of this bike life community on top of what it already is, the bikes and stuff. So that part was the most memorable for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think mine, for me, I think it's, dude, that's like asking, like, pick your favorite kid, right? Like for me, I think it's the fact that I don't read the description beforehand. And that's just me. I just see there's a new episode and I click it. Like I might see like who the guest is, because you can't not see that. But like you'll be in the middle of interviewing somebody, and then randomly like somebody will call your cell phone, and all of a sudden like they're in, like, so it's like in the midst of the interview you're just like, oh look who's calling, and then you just get these random guests. So it's like, it's not like you can even skip ahead. You're like, you have to literally like watch every minute of those, because you're going to miss something. In little like drops of knowledge, like I watched, what was it, just a couple weeks ago, I watched one, and you're like talking about like the new throne fork, and I'm like, dude, if I would have just skipped through just like that first minute, I would have missed like so much of like what's going on. So it's like, if you're watching this, and you're, next time you watch Urban Misfit Podcast, do not skip ahead, because you're going to miss something that you really, really want to know. You're going to be behind. So like, watch it, catch up, but you don't know who's going to call in. You don't know what's going to happen. There'll be times when you'll be interviewing someone, and then like all of a sudden Rickard comes in, and you're like, hold on, like, what's going on?
Or out in Florida, he had, you had a trip planned to Philly, so you're taking this from your studio across the country. You're getting riders from different scenes, and there's a big there's a lot of variance when you go look at East Coast riders and West Coast guys, and you're getting into that. So that's, trying to get their take on it, or just, sit down for an interview. That's pretty dope too, because a lot of different guys that you've had on, especially with like Steezy Films and the Florida scene, and heading up to Philly, that just kind of broadens the horizon for us out here to see what they're really doing and talk about it. And then another thing Tucker's doing, Isaac, is pretty dope, and I really like it, is the whole the Wheelie Wednesday, showcasing the rider of the week. And on top of that, you're doing the how to wrench on your bike thing, how to do this and how to fix that. I mean, I think that's a huge part of being a bike rider, is know how to work on your bike, and they're putting out little how-to videos. I mean, how cool is that?
Dude, here's what I loved about, like, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but like, I thought I knew how to work on a bike. You know what I mean? Like, I know how to get my bike running. I know how to do most of the stuff. But like, you did that like changing a freewheel. And I think we even had like little discussions back and forth. I'm like, dude, I've never done that, because it's like I didn't have a tool for that.
Right.
We're talking about like doing the hammer, like a mallet.
I'm like, hey, is this the right tool, dude? It's not working. For bike park tool fix it advice.
Oh yeah.
What do you have? What do you think as far as like for the future? I know right before the coronavirus came out, you did, like, we were talking about. I say you were like it feels like you're friends with you just watching this podcast. So you were talking about going. You were going to head out to Philly, or like what do you have planned in the future for the podcast? What kind of stuff are you planning?
So I mean, obviously it's hard to say when, but I know that the cool thing. So shout out to Throne Cycles. They're my riding sponsor, if you don't already know. But they're putting together the Goon Tour, which was actually already scheduled for May. But due to the circumstances, obviously it's been postponed. So that is still going to be happening whenever that does happen. They already told me, they were like, make sure that you bring your podcast studio stuff with you and shit, because we're going to be touring from Miami to New York, and we can stop and you can get podcast episodes along the way and shit. So I was like, right on, bro, because that pretty much, and at that time I'd already been planning the Philly trip. So, and they had helped out with that. So it's really cool that they even offered me that, you know what I mean? Like, and that was like directly from Ike. And so I really appreciated that. And I can't wait to do that tour. It's going to be super dope. We're going to fly into Miami, do a ride out in Miami. And then I forget what cities and states we're hitting on the way to New York, but I know like New Jersey. Where do we have another rider somewhere else? I guess New Jersey and New York are like the two main ones we have to hit. But yeah, so plan on doing that. The people I want to get over there, like I've already talked to One Way Corey and One Way Stefan and One Way Rosati, One Way Jason, Big Apple E, LJ from Ride Out Supply, Montana Ricky, O-Blocks. I got a lot of people pretty much ready to go, which it'll be cool like once I finally get out there. But in the meantime, so I'm like a real optimist, okay? I really try and find the positive in all this shit. So where I'm sitting now is that like we're doing this Skype thing, and it's funny because I just started doing Skype on my podcast too, and it's really opened the door for like endless possibilities of having people on, as long as, you know, I just did a podcast today and I'm trying to figure out the best way to have like the most watchable, clear, you know what I mean, Skyped in type of thing. So I've developed a way to do that to where it kind of feels like the guest is here with me. So, and that's all due to having to adapt because of the coronavirus, you know what I mean? So, and this could open up huge doors for me because, like, just to give you an example, I was just talking to, I don't know if you guys know who they are on Instagram, but Big Jenny and Blake 201.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I just talked to Jenny and I just pitched them the idea to, like, jump on the podcast, Skype in on the podcast, and her and Blake, and just talk about their experience with the bikes and, like, what people can do to stay healthy and riding and shit like that. And she was pretty into it. She told me that Blake's really weird about doing Skypes, or like not weird, but particular. That was the word she used. Really particular about doing stuff like that. And I was like, dude, I totally understand. I was like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? And she was like, hell yeah.
They're crazy. I'm not crazy in the way where I've watched videos of them doing riding, but then I've also watched their videos where they're eating like a 10-foot long slice of pizza and a 20-pound burrito, and they're super fit and they love bikes and they have this whole fitness thing that goes with it. So yeah, I would love to see those folks on your podcast. Yeah,
it was super rad. Like just watching their page and like seeing that they got into the big bike thing, and like they relatively got into it. I think I saw Blake on one before I went to Miami, like right before I went to Miami. And now to see that they're like really into the bike thing, that's actually how I started talking to Jenny, because I comment on both of those, but she just happened to comment back a while ago. But she jumped, I don't know if you guys saw that picture of me jumping that like grass hill over the bike. Well, she posted a video of her jumping that on her Big Ripper.
I saw it.
So I commented on it. I was like, hey, hell yeah, I was just hit that same little mound right there like 2 weeks ago when I was in Miami or something. And she told me to DM her the video, so she ended up posting it on her story. So that's kind of how I got in contact with her to begin with.
Nice.
But
make sure you get like film an episode in Marlowe's backyard. That's another one. Because like it's almost like a character in every one of it. Like everyone just talks about it. Like, man, look at that backyard. But I want to talk about like his like get some flatland stuff for the old guy right here, because like that dude posts flatland stuff all the time. It's fantastic. I definitely want to see something from his house.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I didn't even see his yard when I was there because I recorded his podcast at his house. But he had they had the hurricane shielding or whatever up out back. So like through the slider door, all I could see was like this gnarly steel shielding like on the whole side of the house. I was like, damn, that looks serious.
Yeah, Iron Man's house.
And they worry about our earthquakes. I'm like, damn.
It's bad when you see a steel shield around the house. Like, hey man, you're from the West Coast, going,
yeah.
What's this about, dude? Do I got to be worried here? Nah, don't worry about it.
You're like, damn. Yeah, that was pretty fun. Sure, that was you want to talk about eventful podcast stuff or memorable, dude? That has got to be probably one of the more memorable adventures I've had in my life, probably in the last like 5 years at least. At least that was the most hectic, wild, crazy trip ever, just due to the fact that whatever could go wrong, sure as fuck went wrong. It was crazy.
You had a hell of a time just driving on the freeway, right? I mean, what?
Gosh, dude. Their traffic out there, Miami drivers suck at driving. It's crazy. You can point out the people who don't live there because the people who don't live there actually use their blinkers.
So you want to unshout out Miami drivers.
Unshout out Miami drivers in traffic.
In traffic.
It was wild driving through that city. Never being there before. I mean, this is the first time I've ever been. And just knowing like that the city was like built on cocaine. It's just crazy to know that history, and like I've seen all the movies, and you're just being there was just a trip. Looking at it, it's just like, gosh, dude, like that place is huge. Like it's really tall, more or less, and wildly overbuilt. Like it's crazy that the traffic is so bad when they have freeways that are like 9 lanes wide.
Wow.
And it's like that area would never need that, you know what I mean? But it was from like back in that era of like the cocaine running days and stuff, I guess, when they were like, well, just spend money over here on the freeway, you know what I mean? Like to, to do something with it or something, because it's crazy.
Like, we got to get that Disney money, make another freeway.
But yeah, I met Antonio Brown like 30 minutes off the plane.
Saw that.
Did the video thing with him. That
pulled up in his Lambo, right?
Huh?
Didn't he pull up in his Lambo or
yeah.
That was pretty tight.
Yeah, that was a trip. I should have never made it there in time for him, but he was hella late, so I ended up getting there like 10 minutes before he did. And it was cool for like the first 45 minutes or something, because he was like hella excited. He was chill. Like he said, "What up?" to all of us. He jumped on one of the bikes. Me and him were wheeling back and forth in the parking lot, and I was trying to like give him tips on how to like wheelie, I guess. And he was cool. And then his entourage came, and it just like got real weird and hella loud and like chaotic and shit. And so it was just one up and down after the next in Miami for sure. For sure.
Well, Craig, do you want to send us off? Do you have any other questions you want to ask?
No, I just want to give a huge shout out to you, Tucker, for everything that you're doing with the podcast, for the positivity, for the way that you ride, and the way that you just handle your business, man. It's such a pleasure to have you on here on Isaac's show, and I love being a part of it. As we just close out here, I just kind of want to get your take on the bike life scene, where it's at now, and where would you either like to see it going, or where do you think this is going as far as a scene, or a community? Where do you think that's going to head to?
Good question. Really, like where It's a two-part question, yeah. Where I want to see it and where I think it's going.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got you. Where like I would like to see it go is something I feel like Broke Boys is on the right track with making this happen, but something has got to happen to where, unfortunately, like it's a terrible thing, but it's just the truth. This is the truth, kids.
Come on, lay it down.
But this bike life thing will never last until somebody figures out a way to monetize it. And it's sad but true. And I don't know what that means for this. Trust me, I thought about it. Because not for the simple fact to make the money, but for the fact that I want this to have the history that skateboarding and snowboarding does. And the fact that they're still ever growing sports, and their roots are like skateboarding's had a wild one. You know what I mean? It like came and then died and then came back and and it was all due to the fact of monetization. Like if you really look at it, is that people were making hella money, so the sport was growing and athletes were getting paid, so people wanted to be athletes, they wanted to skate, they had their heroes out there, and then the industry changed from that like flat grounding stuff. Sorry, there's a mosquito. And then that's like when the backyard ramp days came into effect, and then bam, all of a sudden it was just that new, and somehow that grungy backyard trash, bro, is in the X Games today, and it's like, this can do that. I think this can do that.
They made a full recovery as far as the skateboarding as an industry, haven't they? I mean, you said it just perfectly.
Yeah, so that's like, I don't even care who it is. I don't even care who it is, dude. I want somebody to figure it out, though, because I really love riding these bikes, and I really love what experiences that I get from it, the people that I get to meet, the places that I get to go. Like, it gives me motivation to like kill other things in my life. You know what I mean? Because if I'm killing on the bike, it really like motivates me because I'm pretty obsessed on the bike stuff. So, and I know that the rest of the people that are in my normal life, not my bike life people, don't give a shit about the bike stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like they care nothing about, like, I mean, not nothing, but they don't really care as much about my motivation towards that. So like I gotta like transfer that into the stuff that correlates to them, because I have employees and shit like that. So when I'm killing it and working hard, it motivates them to kill it and work hard. So, and that really all comes from the bikes, and the bikes, they just attract all walks of life, and you know what I mean? I've met some pretty rad people just in the short time that I've been around, and it's just a cool thing that we have, and I really love the fact that I was blessed enough to find it, and that I am where I'm at with Throne and Broke Boys and the podcast, and and that's pretty much where I want to see it. Is I just want to get it on the level that, like, get it out of that skateboarding, snowboarding.
Yeah, you want to see it take on its own and last and have longevity and not fizzle out at some point. You want to see this thrive and succeed, right?
Right. And now why I was saying the Broke Boys thing I think is on the right track is because the East Coast, I think, has really created and had this pedal bike life thing for, I want to say, like 5 years now. About 5 years, it's been real popular over there. And all they do is the wheelies and the combos and the swerves and the leg over stuff and everything. And the people have gotten really good at doing it, but the industry has gotten nowhere with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think it's going to take a crossover between that and BMX style riding to get the right parties interested in what we're doing, and also open the door for different riders to get interested.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
who's to say they got to be wheelie riders or just BMX cruisers to want to ride the big bikes. Why can't we make BMX riders want to try and get down on a big bike, you know?
I couldn't agree more. Like that's literally my mission. You know what I mean? Like you kind of you touched on it too, like how BMX always, you kind of always came back to the pedal bike. You've always had that it, I don't want to say it felt like home, but to me, it felt like home coming back to BMX and realizing that, the bike industry had left me orphaned without something that I could ride at this stage in my life. Because, I'm a lot older. I'm 47. And so the memories that you're making now are the stuff that you're going to talk to with your friend. It's going to be, you can replace me with you and Craig with one of your friends and say, like, you'll have these conversations like Craig and I are having. And it's just a blessing to have that. Like, when I'm stressed out, I can look back and think like, I've had great times on my bike. I've learned valuable lessons in life. And, the relationships that I've bonded with people over BMX, is amazing. Like the guys that I used to ride with, we still follow each other on Instagram. Like one dude's a realtor, he's married to a doctor, he rides mountain bikes, but like he'll still send me like a flatland clip of like somebody doing flatland today, and he's like, dude, can you believe, like, look what they're doing now?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? I literally haven't physically seen this kid since I was 16 years old, maybe 17 years old, but we still bond and we still connect. And so the relationships and the friends that you have now, they easily can be lifelong friends, and you will have the memories and you're going to share it. And the thing about it, I think that's so special is like Craig and I, like, it's funny because like I met Craig through your podcast because I had messaged him afterwards, like, dude, that was amazing. But like he and I will sit back and talk about, like, we'll send each other a little like, dude, remember this, remember that. And it's kind of like that where you just kind of, you're going to have these family moments that even though you're not blood family, BMX is a family. So I think that you're right. Like bringing it, these big bikes will bring like older guys like me back. But I worry about the same things too, like the longevity of it, with what people are doing now. Life is going, Craig. That's a question we haven't talked about that.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of along the lines of what you guys are talking about. All of us have seen different eras of different, I won't say sports, but scenes or lifestyles of sports come and go, with skateboarding, with BMX. BMX even had its own time when it dipped out. I mean, Isaac and I have been through the era of BMX motocross racing, where that was huge, and then it waned. Freestyle came in and replaced that, where kids were wanting to just, do flatland and tricks on their bikes. And that had its moment in the light. And now it's like, we get to be a part of this, right, Isaac? And to see it, and it's so exciting for us, really, because now here's a way for us to get on a bike and do something different and use all of our experience to have fun with it. Right now, it's about everyone getting together. It really is about having fun first and foremost, and it's about bringing people together. But there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more riders who are becoming very skilled and very advanced, and they're showing off their moves in the streets, but it's really hard for them to get further than that. They're making clips, they're making edits, they're doing everything they can, but where does that go? What's the end game? Not the end game, but what's the next step? Because there's so many talented riders out there. It's incredible.
It really is. I mean, you see them every day. You know what I mean? Like people like, I'll get tagged on random posts, and it's like someone I've never seen before, just absolutely shredding. And you're like, dude, where are you at? Where'd you come from? I love that stuff. And
I'm sure Tucker does a lot, but I get kids hitting me up in my DMs like, I want to get sponsored. How do I ask for a sponsorship? I mean, there's just a lot of momentum behind taking this a step further, but and here again, Tucker had a great podcast with Rusted Jalopy, Marlo, on where they were like the do's and don'ts to getting sponsored. But it's like, so many kids are so badass that they're like, dude, I think I'm ready. I don't know. Should I ask? Should I not? And that's the age of having technology riding alongside your skill set. You know, it's like, hey, do you see me? I see me. Are you seeing me? Let's make some money. Let's make a connection here.
Right.
You know?
And that's the thing. That's like part of the monetization where it's like, so even like my hat is off the throne big time for like planning and being able to budget in enough money to do a tour like that with us. And like, that's all paid. Like that's like all of the riders, we don't pay for any of that. So my hat is off to them for that, because that's why it's really hard for the riders to get sponsored too, is because there's no, like what I mean by monetizing is the competition to compete, because that's how you get like the most exposure, crowds, people looking at your thing, other outside of, you know, social media. But because realistically, it's pretty crazy that these bicycle companies sponsor people, because there's no real metric to see that we're making them money. You know what I mean? Granted, we're not getting paid. If they give us free bikes, which I'm sure in the duration of us having that bike, we'll probably have sold more than one to pay for that. You know what I'm saying? But
Sure.
that's why it's hard to get sponsored, is because once they have their riders, like, they're not paying them. So what do they need new ones for? You know, and it's, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Craig, is there anybody, as we wrap up here, who do you want to shout out? Anybody you want to say, thanks? And I want to shout out, first of all, like Craig's family for letting him hang out tonight and helping us get everything set up. So thank you to Craig's family. But Craig, any shout outs you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I actually really want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Tucker Slimboy at Slimboy916 on Instagram, and at Urban Misfits Podcast as well. You're doing a phenomenal thing. I really enjoy the content, your podcast. I enjoy your riding with you. I've been on ride outs, and you know, I really like what you're doing, because you're at the forefront of being able to talk about this, and it's spurred me to want to, you know, find people who I emulate. You, Rickard, Santos, he knows I emulate him, and just watch you guys, because if I know I'm getting motivated from it, I know a ton of people are too, and I think that's super cool. And just give a shout out to everyone who's sitting down and while they're not riding, especially during these times, who are making videos, who are talking about this, and all the guests that Tucker's had on his show. Big shout out to them for being a part of that, because that podcast is awesome. It makes for some really good content. So huge shout out. And thank you to Ice for having me on, and appreciate the time and energy that you're putting into this, and especially to your family for allowing you to do this. And so thank you.
Yeah, it's fun. Thanks for that too. Tucker, I'm even wearing, I got this shirt today. It's my R.L. Osborne shirt from Poor Boy Steve. And I'm wearing it because to me, you are Wizard Publications. For those of us that are like older guys, BMX Action, Freestyle was Wizard Publications. R.L. Osborne was like their writer that also ran the magazines with them. And dude, thank you so much for your contribution to this, because to you, it's just, you know, maybe it's like I'm just sitting back talking with my friends, having a good time. And, you know, to the rest of us, man, you are leaving a legacy that like I have, if I want to go look at videos of my favorite riders, dude, it's like home video that's been converted to like a computer. You know, it could be just someone shooting a cell phone in front of their VHS.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like, if I want to watch the heroes of my day, I mean, it's like, there's like 4 pixels on the screen and you're like, I'm pretty sure that's Eddie Fiola, but maybe it's not. So thank you for what you're doing and helping grow the sport, promote riders, and giving exposure to, you know, not just NorCal guys, but coast to coast. And thank you for just what you're contributing to the community and how cool you are about it. You know, thank you for coming on. Thank you for doing this and leading the way as far as like, so Craig and I say Craig and I, because Craig's my all-time, like forever, he's going to be my all-time like interview co-host for like, as long as he will put up with me, you're going to see these.
Hell yeah. Right on.
But dude, tell give us a shout as we head out. Like, give us a shout out. Who sponsors your podcast? I know it's like what Mr. Bike Shop, I think it is. Who sponsors your podcast, and then who sponsors you? I want to make sure that the people that are investing in the sport gets the exposure. And if you're watching this, everyone he's about to mention, go follow and let them know that you're following them because of what they're doing on his podcast, so that they know. Like when I found out some of them, I literally was like, I came here because of Urban Misfits Podcast, and I'm glad I did. So tell us who all sponsors and supports what you're doing.
Yeah. So sponsors. So sponsors for the show, I've had a few actually. But yeah, so Mr. Bike Shop, big shout out to Mr. Bike Shop in LA. They sponsored the Philadelphia trip, and along with Throne Cycles, they also threw in money in the hat towards that trip as well. Both of them have been super supportive in the show through messaging and on, posting us online and things like that. Personally, I'm sponsored by Throne Cycles, Broke Boys BMX, and Urban Misfit Podcast.
Yeah.
Oh wait. So for the show too, actually, MCK Crafts, which is a CBD company. They were the ones who actually sponsored the trip to Miami, and I'm working with them currently for the show as well. So I got some stuff coming up with them. So look forward to that. But man, big shout out to you guys for sure. It's definitely an honor to be a guest on your guys' show. It's definitely an eye opener for me, and just kind of lets me know that I'm probably doing something right here. Just because I knew that the day would come that somebody else would start a podcast in the same circle of what we're doing, because I'm doing it, just for the simple fact that there's nobody else, so I think it's rad that you guys are doing it. I look forward to seeing what your guys' show evolves into. And I definitely wish you guys the best of luck and lots of memories in the journey. For sure.
Yeah, follow us for more old guys living our youth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I want to shout out Matt Rickard. Can't forget Matt Rickard, man, co-host on the show. He's my fucking ride homie. We've been traveled all over, ridden together everywhere. We've done a bunch of the podcasts, and he's been big support for the show since day one, and he just wanted to help in any way, and it just kind of developed into co-hosting the Wheelie Wednesday thing. So you guys all have Matt Rickard to thank for that show.
Yeah, Matt.
We love that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Tucker. Thanks for coming, man. We really appreciate it. Good luck in the future. Let us know. I can't wait to hear about the forks and how those are turning out, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. You're leaving a legacy that a lot of us really appreciate, even if we don't know it yet. You'll be watching these videos when you got a gray beard like mine. You'll be on YouTube, just remembering the good old days, and this is going to be part of it. Tucker, you're huge in this industry. Thank you, and appreciate you coming out and talking with us. Craig, thanks for coming out and doing this with us. We'll talk soon. Stay tuned, and we'll talk to you later. Stay home, stay safe, but we'll all be out riding soon.
Right on.
Peace.